Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Alex's Afternoon Art Show. Today we are doing another art thing. I don't know where my brain was going there, but today we're drawing Spider-Man 2099. We're going to be talking a little bit about some perspective, a little bit of foreshortening, and also some other stuff, probably effects, maybe digital painting. These are things which I don't really touch on now. I do struggle with these intros a lot of the time, mostly because I can never just formulate a normal cognitive thought in the first place. That was a bit redundant what I just said. Anyways, cognitive thought. Well, anyways, I think that's enough intro before my brain fully collapses in on itself. Roll the intro. We've got a new intro now, so yeah, the intro. Okay, so as per usual, I've got our base sketch and everything done. As you can see, we're going to be doing some kind of streaking effect with our colors. Again, it was about a week ago now that I did this base sketch, so you'll forgive me if I forget all the things that I'd necessarily intended with it. But the big one is obviously perspective, as you can see, the hand of it, and foreshortening. The hand is obviously closer to the camera, so it's bigger than his head. Well, slightly bigger than his head. I think in the whole wingspan of it. But yeah, and then stuff like the body and this arm here is quite small. So yeah, that's the kind of thing we're doing here. I might need to do something about the arm spikes here, because they might be a little odd. So I mean, as you can see, I've done some slight different stuff with the design, ever so slight. I mean, it's really minor. A lot of the changes that I've made, I just made the spider come down into his inner thigh, and then it loops around to the back of his legs, and then comes around into this kind of like side piece here. He's got the toe caps. Some of this stuff I've pulled from Spider-Verse, but again, obviously, you can see I've not really gone for the Spider-Verse proportions. He's still got kind of normal Spider-Man proportions, in that he's kind of thin, muscular. If you're wondering why my voice is a little husky, it's mostly because I'm tired. It's a little earlier than I would normally record one of these, because it's actually the afternoon. But yeah. Yeah, there was a thing which I meant to say. I might alter some of this here, maybe put some design there, because there's not really much there as it stands. Yeah, what else was I gonna say? Yeah, like, I mean, oh yeah, I was gonna mention my reference. So one of the things which I wanted to mention was the reference that I used. I mean, I could delete that now, I don't need it anymore. But yeah, basically what I did was I used more or less, I just used reference from here of a man reaching towards the camera. That was about it. I think this hand is mostly new, but yeah, the kind of upper body pose is sort of taken from the reference. The hand was a different shape. And obviously the legs weren't on show, so these legs obviously I had to draw myself. And I think they look alright. I don't think they look too out of place. This leg may be a little short, but I mean, I've not got a huge amount of space to extend it. So yeah, I think I'm gonna mostly roll with that. Yeah. So yeah, I'm trying to think now, is there anything else I need to say before we start? I mean, this is obviously a little messy up here, but we're gonna be going over that later anyways, so it doesn't matter a huge amount. This, I don't know that this one will take too long. I say that, but I don't know. I really don't. Because it doesn't feel like this one should take super long. Because this is a bit of a simpler one, all in all. Yeah, I don't know, maybe we should just go in and get started. Because yeah, as you can see, I've altered parts of this, of where I've brought the kind of the eyes very close together. He's got these kind of angry lines on his forehead, which I might alter because they're a little weird looking. Yeah, and again, I think like the colors on this are going to be reasonably simple. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have him have the really bright red, and then maybe a really, really dark blue. That's going to be borderline black, but it's going to be still kind of blue, very slightly. because, I mean, it's supposed to be a black suit. It's just the way that light hits it is usually shown to be blue. But that's a comics thing, anyways. Yeah. Anyways, I think we'll start. I don't think there's much of a reason to dawdle any further. I think I'll begin, and then I will come back maybe during or maybe whenever I'm talking about the colors a little bit more. We're gonna do that 3D effect that we did in the self-portrait, if you watched that. We're gonna do that one again because I think I can do it better this time, and it's gonna streak all out in the one direction this time, whereas the self-portrait one, it streaked out one in the other, one in one direction, one in the other. So this time we're going to streak it all out in the same direction. So we'll see how that works. I need to open my reference, but I will just start the speeding up now, and then yeah, I'll be back whenever we're going into detail on the colors, I believe. Okay. Okay, so that is our details done. As you can see, I did a little bit of adjusting when it came to his arms. I gave him these little stripes that go into the spikes. The arm spikes, I think, are always a bit of a pain. Like, I mean, even you can see the perspective. I mean, part of the problem here is the perspective. Is that doing the perspective is that you're going to get like a slight, like this kind of angle to them. You're not going to get a perfect flat underside or a perfect forward, any of that stuff, which just makes it a pain in order to do. And so that's kind of part of why these are like that. But yeah, I added these little stripes, mostly because otherwise his arms are going to look kind of bare, because you're only seeing the inside of his arms. And on, well, at least the way I prefer to do Spider-Man 2099, he has the stripe going all the way down the forearm, but obviously you're not going to see that because it's the underside of the arm. It's the same reason why the inside of his hands are going to be red. Yeah, I decided to give the streaks actual line to them. I think that's more or less just to make my life easier. We'll see what I decide to do when it comes to the actual red streaking off later. I'm probably going to use one of my paintbrushes and then streak it off like that. That's probably how I'm going to do it. I'll probably do that as a separate layer. I was debating on including the web cape, but I chose not to, because I felt like it would be a little too much work, and also, again, just in what I just did there alone, that was already nearly 2 hours of the video, so, or 2 hours of the recording, so I feel like that was a fair choice, more or less. So yeah, anyways, yeah, is there anything else I need to talk about here before I do these colors? Colors won't take me very long because there's only 2 of them. Yeah, I think just as a whole, there is a few things which I'm not sure kind of what I'm going to do with this part of the screen. I don't fully know what I'm going to do in terms of background color yet. I'm probably going to use like a high contrast, something high contrast, so something that goes against the blue and the red. So maybe yellow. Maybe I'll do yellow for the background color, because then I'm going to be having the obviously all the different, whenever we've got the 3D effect going on of these streaking off into different. It'll almost look like the Spider-Man moving really fast effect that you see sometimes in the comics, of where to show all the acrobatics they have like slightly hollow versions. That's kind of what I'm going to be doing in terms of the 3D effect, is I'm going to be having different ones streaking out which are in different colors. It's hard to explain necessarily, but I think maybe you get the idea of it, but you'll see it anyways later on whenever I'm doing that. I have an idea for how I'm going to do it without it looking weird. So, yeah. I think I'm going to do the red first, because that'll probably be a little easier to start off with. Yeah. Trying to think, is there a huge amount that I need to touch on here first? So, I'm going to be using a very bright red. And that will go against the very dark blue that I'm going to go for. Yeah, I'm just trying to I'm trying to piece together what I'm going to do for a background here. I might have some shapes, kind of like I did with the self-portrait. Might have some shapes, probably square though, little boxes or something, just to sell more of the movement, maybe something like that, streaking off this way. I don't know. We'll see what I do. We'll see what I decide to do. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So I will do the colors here now, anyways. Then we will get to that later. Okay. Okay, so that is our colors done, more or less, but we do still have the digital painting to do. So as you can see, I decided to do the blur in a different way than I'd necessarily intended. I thought about using a watercolor brush to remove like that, but I feel like I wanted the harsh lines. I think it looks better. I mean, it's still quite messy. There's bits of like this line here and some of these lines here. I think it's fine. I think the mess will work with me rather than against me. But yeah, so this is the thing. Like you can see that I decided to do that instead of the what do you call it? The watercolor brush, because I feel like it flows better here rather than kind of just making it a little too precise, if that makes any sense. Well, I feel like the watercolor brush is kind of it would create too kind of smooth an edge, too kind of natural an edge, which isn't what I really want. I want something which has kind of a mess to it, which is this kind of erased thing like that, of where you get these kind of like harsh lines out of it, and then thin lines, thick lines, and all this. So it becomes very messy and very harsh. And so it looks like the colors are being bled across the page, rather than that they're kind of flowing across the page as they would with something watercolory. But here, yeah, as I say, I feel like it feels like they're kind of bleeding across their page, that they're being ripped across the page because of these like harsh streaked lines. I think that works. So obviously I'm not going to be shading the blur. It doesn't make any sense to do so. But I will be shading the red. So even though it's the exact same red on the blur and on the main color, that will then obviously be getting altered. So it won't look the same as the bleed red, but I'll try and keep it somewhat similar, because I don't want to be so different that these don't match. They should still match, but I think actually before I do the shading, I will whack on a background. And this might take a minute to try and find what I'm looking for here with this. So let's try yellow. How does that look? I don't know. What about like an aqua blue? I'll think about it. I'll think about it. I'll leave it on this for now, and then I will do the shading. But yeah, I think we're gonna go with something like 70%. 70% opacity on our paints. I don't normally do full opacity because I think that it just looks too harsh a lot of the time. But yeah, let's get into this. Let's start doing some of this painting. Okay, so that is our painted shading done. Now we got to do the line shading. So it's going to be the same thing we did with the self-portrait, or I'm just going to kind of do reasonably normal lines. We're going to get some kind of generic colors here. So I'm going to probably go for like a purpley color, maybe even a pinky purple as kind of a middle ground for us. Then my lighter color, which I tended to be skewing towards, was something like a yellow. Something, yeah, like a maybe not even a yellow, maybe more orange. Something like that. Like a kind of an orangey yellow. Now, I'm trying to think of what I am going to do for the background here. Because I feel like I need to do something to make this work. Because otherwise it's going to be a little too bland. Do I just need to do like a grid or something going on? Something basic? Because obviously you can't go too crazy with it, because otherwise it'll be just difficult to complete that. So Hmm. Hmm. Because, yeah, I can't draw like a whole cityscape because, I mean, we've only got so much time in the day. I don't want to have to split this into multiple recordings, so... Yeah. So the light is coming from here. This would be the darker part of everything. So, with that in mind, and even, I mean, you can even see it with how this, with how the lines get thinner, it technically gets darker. So, maybe I just need to add, like, because I have the speed lines already, maybe I do just need to add some kind of, like, techie shapes or something like that. Maybe something like that. Maybe literally just stick with the same color scheme for the background. Maybe I could do, like... Maybe I could do like a city shape. Okay, I'm forming an idea here. I'll get back to you with it after I've done this, the rest of the shading, and probably the light line too. Okay, so that is our character done. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something a little different here. Where I'm going to get some kind of like pale color, not purely a white, but I'm going to keep it like a pale bluey kind of grey color, maybe something like that. And then, hell, I might even make it a little bit bluer, so that it's still clearly blue. Very light blue. But yeah, and then I'm thinking that I'm going to do something here like this. This might not work exactly how I want it to. So let's just do something like this. Let's just start forming boxes like that. Just start doing something like this. Let's see if this works. Again, as I say, this might not quite look exactly how I want. So I'm just gonna do that. And then maybe something like this. Like that. And then I still want it to look kind of sci-fi-ish, so I might add a few extra points in extra places. Stuff like this, stuff like that. This is more or less just for color dispersion that I'm doing this. So yeah, we'll see how this works for us. Again, this is an experiment that I'm going for here. Now, this is kind of an odd geometrical shape which I'm forming here. So this might give us what we're looking for in terms of this kind of bizarre, sort of sci-fi-ish monolithic shape that kind of looks sort of freaky and weird and has all these little boxes on it and everything. Yeah. Just add a few more of these things. Add a few spokes here and there to the sides. A few larger ones, a few thicker ones. Never underestimate the usefulness of your lasso tools and your shape tools and stuff like that. They're always useful. Never underestimate them. Because there's always, always, always something to use them for. Even if they seem kind of useless, they're never useless. Especially for art. Always use all the tools you've got. That's the lesson to be learned here, maybe. So, alright, we've got this vaguely monolithic sci-fi shape. So let's get another color. Let's get another blue, maybe. Let's get something like... well, something like this, like a really deep blue. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do this. So there's our shape. This does look like a top-down map, bizarrely. How does this look to us? It does look nice and sci-fi-ish. So what if I go back into it, and then what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do another shape over it, which is going to be reds, maybe? Let's try something like that. We're going to lower the opacity on these in a minute. Actually, yeah, we want this to be over it. So, I'm not going to change the color just yet. I'm just going to do this again. I'm going to do the same thing, more or less, but we're just going to maybe try and keep it within what we've got going on here, more or less. Have a few come out here and there. So that's what we've got here. It's weird. It's weird. There's parts of this which, yeah, don't necessarily flow in the most obvious of ways. And yeah, How do we feel about this? I think, yeah, and I know kind of what I want to do here is I want to maybe even go back into some of this and just, yeah, hold on, I have an idea for what to do here. Just kind of randomly put in a few more like random shapes like that, just, and then make it let's do some of these here and there, and we're gonna have these basically be lights, sort of. That might work for us. Again, I find with a lot of these I spend more time doing the backgrounds than anything else, even though the backgrounds are not terribly important. Because people are going to be looking at the figure here, not the background. But still, it's fun to kind of do these things, because the background done well drastically enhances the overall flow of things. So yeah, let's do that, and then maybe even add a couple more like that, and then we're going to get a very pale red. I'm going to do this, and that should work, I think. Sort of, yeah, it kind of has that weird look to it. I think I need to go back over some of this, do like that. Do us. It does that there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another layer over that, which is just going to be kind of overall little bits like this, which are maybe various colors. So we got ones like this, which are... If you're wondering why I came up with this idea, if you just look up Spider-Man 2099, there's a really good piece of art which is Spider-Man Spider-Man 2099, like kind of running in a direction, and there's little circles and streaks and all this, and I think it looks interesting. So I think that's a good idea to look at that. So we're gonna go for something like this. Maybe make this one the same as our red, but maybe a little brighter. And then just kind of, you know, maybe even this one could be like an orangey color so that it stands out. Do that. Like those, then kind of more shapes. Shapes! That's the kind of, is that what I'm going to call this? Spider-Man shapes? I initially called it Spider-Man 2099 slash because it's kind of slashing towards the camera, but is this truly Spider-Man 2099 shapes all along? Now, we've got our very glitchy, crazy background, which does, I feel like, maybe distract a little bit, but again, we'll have textures and stuff going over this later, so it should maybe disperse it a little bit more nicely. So now, the final frontier. We gotta duplicate the character, duplicate this group. Let's duplicate it, put it underneath, and then we'll move him out like that. Maybe we're gonna want it to be something like this. And what I will do, whenever I open it, is I will turn off those layers. I don't need the light line or anything on him. I just need this. Maybe you can turn off even his kind of detailed colors, because those aren't very necessary. I'll grab, do I still have my watercolors? I do not. I'll open up my watercolors again, because this time I do need a watercolor brush. Maybe we want a smoke brush to do this. And what I will do is I'll make it about that size. And so I've just got his details on, and I will just merge that group with the colors. So that's all the colors he's got going on. And now I'll do this, just something like that, so that it's slightly see-through on that level. We don't want it to be too distracting, maybe even a little less than that. We want it to kind of take off a little bit more of his head, I think, because the head is... that seems to work. Right, now we're gonna merge that group. Do I need to merge that group? I don't really need to merge that group, but I think we're going to anyways. So how does that look? Looks like that. Okay, that's good. That's what we want. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to lower the opacity on it a tiny bit so that the lines are faded. And then we are going to... yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to need to start creating gradient maps now, kind of like I did in the last one that I showed you before. So we need to go into layer, new adjustment layer, gradient map, like in the, what do you call it, the self-portrait that I did. That's the kind of idea I'm going for here. So this one I'm maybe going to want to be, maybe this one should be blue. This one should maybe be a blue. So we'll keep it on the same kind of scale. We'll put the darkest there, and we'll maybe bring it up a tiny bit so that it doesn't get so blended. Make it a little paler. Like her middle color, just the same kind of thing, but down here somewhere so that the colors are a little more dispersed. Just keep it normal. And then kind of, even maybe bring him out, or I don't need to do that. I need to bring him out a little bit so that he's kind of bleeding off, sort of, so that it looks a little bit more interesting. Now we're going to, we don't want to merge this, we want to create another copy of this, duplicate layer, this, so now we're going to do this here. So now, we got our last final steps to do. So, I'm going to need to, let's do this, I'm going to need to sign it. I'll just slap a signature down here. This might be too light for, maybe too light a background color for this sort of thing. So I might need to, go for the black on this, actually, now that I think about it. I think I'll go with the black, actually, because that'll be easier to read. I think I'm too zoomed in. I am too zoomed in, I'm 100% for some reason. Okay, let's just put it there. Ugh, back to the struggles of trying to figure out how to do my signature again. I don't do it all the time, trust me. It can be difficult if you don't do your own signature for a while. So, I will admit, this is a bit of a mess. So, I think what I'm going to do is, I'm going to create a BG layer. I'm just going to throw all this stuff in there. I'm going to just turn this layer's opacity down a tiny bit. And even that doesn't necessarily help. No, yeah, it's not necessarily helping all that much. Just turn that up to that amount, just even to keep it organized. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this opacity down to 60%, this opacity down to 40%, this opacity down to 20%, so that it fades out more, so that it's less distracting. That might look a little better. I think it looks alright. I think that looks a little better. Yeah, that's alright. Now let's grab. Well, actually, I'll do the texture after the gradient maps. The last gradient maps. So let's do another gradient map. Alright. So what do we want to do on this one? We want to have maybe we'll go for our kind of colors that we've been going for so far. So maybe like a pinky purple there, kind of a warm kind of orangey yellow there, and then what's in between those? In between those is kind of this, be kind of just a basic red, more or less, right? I might even make it like a slightly sweeter red, just so it kind of accents these colors a little better. Try something like that, maybe something that's technically like a sunset color tone. But yeah, let's turn that into an overlay. Jesus. Alright, that's a little intense. I want it to be soft light. I will say that it makes the blue a little bit more close to black at this point. Turn that down to 40%. Then I'm going to create... The blues come out a lot nicer in this, actually, now that I looked at them. Create a duplicate layer. And then we're going to want this one to be luminosity. Maybe make this one 20%. So that just darkens everything a nice little bit. And then we're going to create a duplicate of this one, which is going to be a color burn, and we're going to have that one be like 10%, not even maybe. Because color burns are always very intense. 5% on the color burn, just to kind of do that final little bit of juice to it. But yeah, now we're going to throw our texture over the top of that. And this should be the last thing that we need to do. It should kind of nicely disperse everything, in theory. Because overall, some of these colors are a little bit messy. But doing something to just kind of spread them out a little bit might work for us here. This should do it. Sort of. Maybe? I don't know. I can't say for certain. I will say that this has been an interesting drawing. 20%. We want this to be an overlay. 20%. We don't want it to be too intense. So I'll zoom in and we'll have a look here and see if this is... This is adding that kind of layer of grain to everything, which I wanted. These lines do nicely kind of like stretch on forever because they bleed across the different things, across the different versions of him here. Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind that. I don't mind that, that's okay. I think that works, sort of. Yeah. In a weird sort of way, I think this works, even though it is a bit of a mess. Who knows? Who knows? I don't hate this. It's certainly weird. It's a little bit out of my zone a little bit with how kind of strange it all looks. Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't normally do a type of thing which is this kind of messy in terms of the kind of background and stuff like this. I normally would probably just go for a background color and leave it at that. But instead I decided to go for this weird kind of glitchy look to things. So yeah, that's kind of... It's something. It's something. I wonder how it looks without the bleed again. How does it look without those? I don't know, I think it does need the bleeding across. God, I'm having the struggles now getting these things to show up. Yeah, I do think it needs the bleeding across, because like here it kind of has this like kind of like creepy look to it of the way that he kind of like splits across the frame, which I do like. I do like the kind of like sort of creepiness to it, the way it looks, the glitch effect. But yeah, I think that will be us for today. So if yeah, I suppose I'll just I'll do the outro here because I'm content with this. This is okay. Yeah. So if you like this video, do whatever it is that you normally do, whether that be liking or not. Again, it doesn't much bother me, but I of course would prefer if you liked it, or at the very least that you didn't do anything negative. And if you would like to subscribe, it is the same deal. You presumably have seen a YouTube video before, so you know where the subscribe button is. And yeah, if you decide to watch the next video, I will see you next time. But with all that said, that is us. So, yeah, I will say goodbye and I will leave you. So, bye-bye.